Adaora must die.
Everything will end today.
Kill the witch.
Adaora must die. I am her mother, but I'm in support of your decision. She deserves death. Kill her.
Adaora
Everything
must
will
die.
end today.
She killed my soul too.
Please, I didn't do anything. I'm not a witch. I swear with my life, I didn't kill anybody. You all know me. You watched me grow up in this village. How can you look at me like this? I don't have powers. I don't even have food. I've buried too many people to wish death on
Kill the
anyone
witch.
else. Please, look at me. I'm just a person. I'm just me.
They called her a spirit. They said she cursed their children, that she made the men sick, that she killed the chief's son with beauty, but she only ever wanted to belong. She cried, "I didn't do anything," but no one listened. They pushed her into the river, and just like that, she was gone. No splash, no scream, just silence. But what they didn't know was that the river was never taking her away. It was bringing her back, but this time for revenge. A long time ago, in a quiet little village near a deep forest and a wide shining river, lived a woman named Nneka and her husband Okafor. Their home was small, just one room with a soft mat, a fire to cook, and a little stool outside where they sat in the evening breeze. They had goats, a small yam farm, and kind hearts, but they had no children. For many years, Nneka prayed, "Please, let me hold a baby, just one." She whispered these words at night under the stars. Okafor always said, "Maybe soon, my dear, maybe tomorrow." But many tomorrows came, and still, no baby. One early morning, when the sun was still sleeping behind the hills, Nneka woke up and carried her clay pot to the river. The path was quiet. Her bare feet touched the soft grass. Birds hadn't begun to sing yet. She reached the riverbank, bent down, and began to wash. Then she heard it. Wah! Wah! A baby was crying. Nneka looked up, heart jumping. She looked left, right. There was no one. Then she saw something floating on the river. It was a basket, a round woven basket drifting gently across the water. And inside it was a tiny baby girl, wrapped in soft white cloth, fast asleep, her little mouth still open from crying. Nneka gasped. "Oh, a baby?" She stepped into the water, heart pounding, and pulled the basket close. The baby was warm. Her fingers curled like little snails. Her cheeks were round and soft. Nneka looked around again. "Who brought you here? Where is your mother?" The trees didn't speak. The river just flowed. She hugged the baby close and hurried back home. "Okafor, come and see." Okafor stepped outside, blinking. When he saw the baby in Nneka's arms, his mouth opened wide. "A baby? From the river?" They looked at her face. She looked peaceful, like she had always belonged to them. Nneka said softly, "We will call her Adaora. She's the daughter of all." From that day, everything began to change. The goats grew fat, the yam fields gave more food, the sun felt kinder. People came to visit. Some brought rice, some brought fruits, some just wanted to see the river baby. The elders whispered, "She's a gift." Adaora grew like a bright flower. She laughed with the wind, she clapped when the drums played. When she smiled, it was like the sky smiled too. Nneka held her at night and whispered, "You are special." But sometimes, when she looked at the river, her eyes filled with questions. "Where did you really come from, my child?" The river never answered, but it watched quietly, as if waiting.
After Adaora came, the house felt different. It wasn't loud or sudden. It began like a small breeze, soft, warm, and kind. At first, neighbors came by one by one. They knocked gently, smiled kindly, and left little gifts at the door. "This is for the baby," they said. One brought a bag of rice. Another came with sweet oranges. Someone even gave a wrapper with pretty blue flowers on it. People whispered, "This child, she brings light." Nneka smiled each time. She bathed Adaora in warm water and sang songs the elders had forgotten. Okafor carried her on his back and walked through the village proudly. Then one morning, something strange happened. Nneka was digging yams in the backfield. The soil was soft that day. She reached in deep and felt something hard and smooth. When she pulled it out, her eyes widened. It was a pearl, round, shiny, glowing. She dug more, another one, then another. 3 pearls hidden where yams should grow. She stared at them in her palm and whispered, "The river gave you to me, and now this?" That night, she showed Okafor. He held the pearls gently, as if they were magic. They didn't sell them, they just kept them in a little wooden box, like his secrets. Okafor's stall at the market also began to grow. Before, he sold slowly, just a little grain, a few roots. But now, people came in crowds. "I want your cassava. Give me 5 pieces of that cloth." He built a second table, then a third. Even traders from other villages came asking for the river family. In the village, things changed too. The crops grew strong. Rain came gently on time. The children stopped getting sick. Drums sounded louder at night. The air felt lighter. People began to whisper more. Ever since that baby came, she brings blessings. She must be touched by the spirits. Adaora, still small, walked through the village and children followed her, giggling. Birds sometimes flew low, as if to see her face. Even the dogs wagged their tails when she passed. 6 years passed like a dream. Adaora was now a little helper, carrying small baskets, singing with the birds, learning to cook. She had soft eyes and a bright smile. She loved flowers and warm rain. Then one quiet morning, Nneka felt something flutter inside her belly. She placed her hand on it. It moved again. She sat still, her eyes filled with tears. "Adaora," she whispered, calling her gently. Adaora came running. "Yes, Mama." "There's another gift coming," Nneka smiled, placing Adaora's hand on her belly. Months passed. The belly grew round. People sang. And one morning, just as the sun peeked over the hills, a new baby was born. Another girl. They named her Ngozi, which means blessing. From then, the house grew even bigger. Brick walls rose higher. Servants came to help. The girls had clothes of silk and gold beads. The floors were swept twice a day. The food never ran out. When they walked through the market, people bowed. "Those are the river children," they whispered. But though the house grew tall and the beads grew brighter, the river still flowed quietly outside the village, watching, waiting. And Adaora sometimes still stood by it, holding her little sister's hand, wondering, will everything always stay this sweet?
One sunny morning, Nneka called Adaora and placed a clay pot in her hands. "Go and fetch water," she said. Adaora's eyes sparkled like sunlight on water. It was the very first time Mama was sending her all by herself. She held the pot gently, like it was treasure. "I will go," she said with a proud smile. Little Ngozi jumped up happily too. I want to come," she said, spinning in her soft, shiny beads. But Nneka's voice became sharp. "No, Adaora goes alone." Adaora paused. The joy in her chest dimmed, just a little. She looked at Ngozi, then at Mama. Still, she nodded. "Yes, Mama," she said, quietly. As she walked toward the river, she tried to smile again. Maybe Mama just wants me to learn, she thought. Maybe she wants me to grow strong, like the river. And so she fetched the water. She didn't spill a drop. She came home, tired but happy. She thought she had done well. But after that day, Mama kept sending her again and again and again. "Go get more water. Wash those plates. Didn't I tell you to sweep this corner?" Adaora did everything. She told herself, "Mama is just teaching me to help." She smiled through it. But slowly, things began to change. When Adaora made the soup too thick, Mama snapped, "Do you want to waste everything?" When Adaora folded the wrapper wrong, she shouted, "Why are you so careless?" One day, Ngozi tried to help sweep the floor. She dragged the broom with small hands and smiled. But Nneka yelled, "Stop! What are you doing? Adaora, take that broom. Let your sister rest." Adaora froze. The broom dropped from Ngozi's hand. Adaora bent slowly and picked it up. After that, Adaora did all the chores. She cleaned, cooked, fetched water, and served food. There were servants in the house, yes, but they stood and watched while she worked. Ngozi danced in fine clothes, her hands clean and her feet soft. At first, she thought, maybe Mama is just busy. Maybe I'm stronger. That's why I must help. But one day, while she washed the clothes alone by the backyard, she heard Mama laughing loudly inside with Ngozi. She heard singing, she heard joy. She stared at her soapy hands. Her smile faded. Why doesn't Mama laugh with me anymore? From that day, whenever she finished her chores, Adaora walked to the river. She sat on a stone and looked at her reflection. The water showed her face, calm, quiet, a little tired. She whispered, "Is something wrong with me?" The river didn't answer, but the breeze kissed her cheeks, like it was trying to say, "I see you." She cried sometimes, wiping her tears with her wrapper. Then she stood up, fixed her face, and walked home. No one noticed her red eyes. No one asked her, "Are you okay?" She cooked the meals. Everyone ate. Sometimes she got the cold piece. Sometimes nothing. But she found tiny treasures outside the house, like a smile from a neighbor, the cool river water on her feet, or the soft quiet before morning began. One day, as she sat by the river, something strange happened. A shadow moved on the water. Not hers. It passed and vanished. She looked around quickly. No one was there. She blinked, then shook her head. Maybe it was nothing. But that night, for the first time, she dreamed of the river calling her name.
Time passed like wind through trees, and one day, the girls were no longer little. They had become young women. On the morning of their 18th birthday, the sun rose golden and gentle. Ngozi danced in silk, her wrists jingling with beads. Servants clapped and sang. Nneka smiled proudly at her youngest. But then, Adaora stepped outside. Her wrapper was old, faded from many washings, yet something about her made everyone stop. Even the wind paused to look. Her skin shimmered like river water at dusk. Her eyes held a light that didn't belong to the earth. Her smile was soft but strong, and it reached into people's hearts. Villagers whispered as she passed, "That one, she's not just a girl, she's from the gods. She walks like a story waiting to be told." Ngozi heard it, every word. At first, she forced a smile, but inside her chest, something tightened. It began with small things. When they walked through the market, people looked at Adaora first. When strangers visited the house, they asked, "Which one is the river daughter?" Their eyes always settled on Adaora. Ngozi started to feel invisible. Then came Obinna, the chief's son. He rode into the village on a tall brown horse. His robe was fine, his sandals new. Everyone watched as he stepped down and greeted the family. He smiled politely at Ngozi, but when he saw Adaora, he stared too long. That day he asked many questions. What does she like to eat? Where does she sit by the river? Does she wear blue often? The next day he returned with a golden hairpin, but he gave it to Adaora, not Ngozi. He waited by the river. He brought fruits. He carved her name into wood and handed it to her with shaking hands. Ngozi watched all of it. That night, as the fire crackled low, Nneka sat beside Ngozi. Her voice was like poison covered in honey. She softly said, "You see now, didn't I warn you? She will take everything, even your future." Ngozi said nothing, but her heart twisted. The next morning, she didn't greet Adaora with a hug. Her laughter around her sister began to fade. When Adaora handed her food, she took it with stiff hands. When Adaora shared a story, she turned away before it ended. Her smiles became thin, her eyes colder. But Adaora, she didn't change. She still gave the biggest share of her meat to Ngozi. She still reached for her hand during walks. She still braided her hair with care. She still remembered. Because before this, they had been close, closer than air. They had once shared tiny secrets under the moon. They had giggled in the yard running barefoot. They had whispered wishes into each other's ears before falling asleep. At last year's festival, Adaora gave Ngozi her favorite red beads, the ones she had saved since childhood. Back then, Ngozi had hugged her tightly. But now her hugs were gone. When Adaora tried to talk, Ngozi gave short answers. When Adaora smiled, Ngozi looked away. Adaora felt the change like a slow bruise inside her chest. One evening, she sat by the river with her old diary. The moon shone faintly. She wrote, "How can someone love you yesterday and hate you today?" The river, as always, said nothing, but the wind grew colder, as if it knew.
At first, it was small, like the air around her had changed. Her mother no longer looked at her when she spoke. And when she did, her words were sharp, like tiny knives hidden in smiles. Why are you always just standing there? Is it only beauty you have? Her sister, once her shadow and her song, now passed her without a word. No hugs, no laughter, just silence, or worse, cold stares. In the village, things shifted too. When she passed, people looked twice. She's not normal, some whispered. She's from the gods, others said. And slowly, that whisper turned into something else. It began with the death of a man named Ugochukwu. He was the first. One afternoon, he passed Adaora on the path to the market. She greeted him softly. He didn't answer. He had once given her plantain as a child, but now he was among those who feared the glow in her skin and the quiet in her smile. Moments after walking past her, Ugochukwu took a shortcut through the tall grass, and there, a snake big his leg, swift, silent, and deadly. By the time they found him, the foam was already on his lips. He greeted her, someone said, then walked away. That was his last moment. Some called it an accident, but then came the next. Obiagile, a woman who had once braided Adaora's hair when they were little, saw her at the well. Adaora offered to carry her calabash. No, she said sharply. I can carry my own. She turned away quickly and slipped on a wet stone. Her arm cracked on the edge of the well. Her water spilled, her arm twisted like a rope. She said no to the river girl, someone whispered. Then Nnamdi, the palm wine tapper, he had laughed at Adaora with his friends just days before. They joked she could melt mirrors. The next morning, Nnamdi fell from the tree, broke his ribs, couldn't speak for days. You hear what happened to him? One man asked. Of course, another replied. He just talked with her, and now he can't even breathe right. And it kept happening. A goat farmer tripped and hit his head on a stone. A girl who took Adaora's seat at the stream broke her ankle hours later. A trader who scolded her at the market lost his voice for 3 days. A boy who pulled her wrapper in mockery fell into a ditch the same evening. An old woman who whispered witch behind her back found her roof blown off by wind no one else felt. By the 10th misfortune, people stopped calling it coincidence. They called it a curse.
They whispered in corners. They nodded without words. She's dangerous, someone said. I won't talk to her anymore, another replied. Even those who loved Adaora began to step away. She greeted me this morning, one woman told her husband. I didn't answer. Good. Better to live with silence than die with a smile. By now, Adaora could feel it. She would reach for a bowl, and the hand beside hers would pull back. She would speak, and no one would meet her eyes. Her sister, Ngozi, began to look at her with a strange stillness. Nneka, their mother, said nothing. But her silence had sharpened into something cold, and deep inside Adaora, a quiet ache began to grow. The fear around Adaora grew like weeds in a forgotten field. She no longer greeted anyone fast. She walked quickly, eyes lowered, hands folded. But even her silence made people uncomfortable. She doesn't even blink, some said. She's always listening, said others. No one remembered her kindness anymore, only their fear. Then, one morning, Obinna came to the village. He was the chief's only son, tall, calm, and curious. He had heard stories of the village girl with river-light skin. At the market, he passed through the stalls. He greeted the elders. He nodded at the traders. And then he saw her, Adaora. She stood by the yam pile, holding a basket. Her wrapper was faded. Her hands were dusty. But Obinna could not look away. He walked up to her. May I carry your basket? He asked. Adaora blinked, unsure. No one had offered help in months. It's not heavy, she said gently. Obinna smiled. Still, let me. From that day, he found reasons to be near. He waited by the river. He passed by her compound with roasted plantain in hand. He carved her name in a calabash and left it near her doorway. He brought her a white bead and said, "For your hair, it suits you." Ngozi saw all of it. At first she tried to laugh. She told herself, "He's just being friendly." But inside, something cracked.